The Asus Zenbook S16 is the newest laptop from Asus that features the all-new AMD AI 9 processor, also known as Strix Point. Now, I'm not going to focus too much on its technical specs, but more so on how this laptop performed in the month that I've had this laptop. Now, this specific SKU that I have is the base model with the AI 9 365, and so without rambling on any further, let's talk specs. This Zenbook S16 that I have in the studio comes with the AI 9 365 processor and the Radeon 880M graphics, which is based off of RDNA 3.5, which has a TDP rating of 28 watts. Besides that, my unit also comes with 24 gigs of RAM and 1 terabyte of SSD, which is user upgradable, but there's only one slot, so upgrade is pretty limited. And then we also have a Wi-Fi 7 chip in here, which unfortunately isn't user replaceable. And when it comes to its ports, there's two USB ports on the left side of the device, which is also one of the two ports for charging. We also get an HDMI 2.1 port and a combo headphone jack. Now, on the right side of the device, there's one USB-A 3.2 Gen 2 and a full-size SD card reader. Now, the display on here is a 16-inch 3K OLED display with a variable 120Hz refresh rate, and it also features 0.2 millisecond response time, which is kind of perfect for gaming. But yeah, that's the basic rundown of this laptop. So let's talk about what I love about this laptop, and then we'll go over some of the things that, I'd like to see next time around. So starting with pro number one is, of course, the build quality. Now, this laptop is quite unique because it's using a combination of ceramic and aluminum for its top lid, and the entire chassis, or at least majority of it, is made out of really nice premium aluminum materials. Now, this Zenbook S16 isn't cheap by any means, but for what you're paying, you're definitely getting a really premium feeling and premium looking laptop that looks like it would cost, $1,000 more. It is a thin and light laptop and weighs as much as a 15-inch MacBook Air, but everything about this laptop is built really well. The keyboard has no flex or no give. The laptop lid is really solid and no wobbles, unlike the more expensive Zephyrus G16. And the trackpad on here is massive, which is probably the biggest trackpad on a laptop currently. But this is kind of an all-in-one trackpad, which supports a few different gestures to adjust the volume and brightness of your display. Overall, I'm a big fan of this laptop's design and build quality, and the keyboard and the trackpad is superb as well. And then for pro number two, it would have to be the speakers. Now, I feel like Asus as of late has a pretty good track record for its speakers in its laptops, and I'm happy to say that the S16 also has one of the better speakers in a Windows laptop. Now, it's almost as good, if not better, than the 14-inch MacBook Pro that I've been using lately, and while I still think the Zephyrus G16 still sounds better, the Zenbook S16 isn't that far behind when it comes to its speakers, thanks to the 6-speaker setup that they put in this thin and light chassis that's Harman Kardon certified and features Dolby Atmos. Now, I'm going to let you guys listen to what the speaker sounds like in just a second, and let me know what you guys think in the comments down below.
Can catch my fire so fast. Can catch my fire so fast. Can catch my fire.
And then for pro number three, and my last pro on this list, and it would have to be, of course, its performance. Now, this new AI 365 processor is pretty much perfect for this thin and light laptop, giving us really good performance at a much lower power consumption so that we can either, work for longer or consume media for much longer. So battery is pretty awesome on this, but I'll explain that in just a little bit. Now, as far as gaming goes though, it's definitely capable of gaming at 60 frames per second depending on your settings. And that's probably the most important thing to talk about here, and it's how we're getting really good performance at this 28 watt TDP on such a thin and light chassis, especially for an x86 device. And I want to be perfectly clear here that this isn't a gaming laptop. This isn't going to give you, the best of the best graphics or the highest of frame rates. This laptop is mostly for productivity or schoolwork. Although, if you choose to game on here, set your expectations on what kind of resolution and settings that you can play games at. But also know that, not every single game is going to run at 60 frames per second. Now, in all of the games that I've tested, I'm playing at 1080p and low to medium settings with AMD's FSR turned on if it's available, and the laptop is set to its performance mode and connected to its charger. Now, with all of that, I'm getting really great results here, but if I'm not plugged in, I can maybe only game for about an hour and a half to 2 hours max, which honestly is pretty good for an x86 device, but I'm also not seeing a huge loss in performance here, maybe 5 to 10 frames less. But when I'm just watching YouTube videos or writing scripts or writing emails, I've been able to push this laptop up to 15 hours on a single charge, which I think is pretty impressive for a device that's not running an ARM processor like the new Qualcomm chips, that came out recently. I think the combination of the new AMD chip with the OLED display and big battery here really helps push this laptop to perform much longer. And I think if you're looking for a laptop that you can use for school, for work, and you want to start your content creation journey and do some light gaming on the side, this would be a great pickup. My only thing here is just don't go thinking that this will be your gaming laptop when you're out and about. It's just not going to perform great for long gaming sessions, and I think that's a perfect segue to the things I didn't like so much about this laptop. So let's talk about the cons. All right, so when it comes to the negatives, and I actually only have 2 gripes here, maybe just one major one. But one major thing is, of course, the thermals. For a laptop this thin and light, this thing gets really hot, as in when it's under load and you're pushing this laptop to its limit, especially when you're gaming. The external temperature around the keyboard could reach anywhere around 45 degrees Celsius, which is pretty hot to the touch, and without proper cooling it could potentially throttle the system long term, but also could maybe burn you if this thing is on your lap while you're gaming, or you're doing some heavy intensive tasks. Now you can set the fans to run at full blast, which can get pretty loud, but even then the laptop's too thin to really dissipate the heat, so even if you've got fans blasting at full speed, it'll still be pretty hot, unlike a laptop that's a little bit thicker with better cooling. So there's definitely that trade-off here with its thin and light chassis. Now the last one here is more of a personal nitpick here, and it would have to be the price. I think if you look at this laptop as an entire package, it really is a solid laptop that looks great, that feels awesome to the touch, it performs really well, it has good battery life, but for $13.99, it's definitely more of a premium laptop, and I'd probably recommend a Copilot laptop instead. A good example would be the Lenovo Yoga Slim 7X, which is a couple $100s cheaper. Even if you got the top end model to match the S16 in terms of RAM and SSD, it's about less than $100 cheaper, and while it's not great for gaming, everything else about that laptop though is pretty awesome, and I'll leave my video on that one linked below. And so to wrap it all up for you guys, I think Asus made a really good entry-level premium laptop that I think would be worth it for students or someone who wants a thin and light big laptop that they can use for work, for entertainment, and maybe for some light gaming. The OLED display here is beautiful, the build quality feels awesome, casual gaming performance is top-notch, and if you can find this laptop, this specific model in the future on sale for maybe $1,000 or $1,100, then jump on that ASAP, because the reality is this thing is a really great laptop, but I know it's a bit tough to swallow $1,400 for a laptop, knowing that there are other options out there that won't necessarily get super hot when you're putting the laptop under a lot of load. Anyways, that's been it for this video. Thank you all so much for watching, and yeah, I'll see you all in the next one.